Good morning, everyone. We are about to begin our funding fair today, but we're going to allow more people to join us. So just hang on for a moment. We'll be starting shortly. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll give us a couple more seconds and then we'll begin. It's nice seeing everybody today attending this. We all appreciate this. Okay, it is 9:01 and we'll begin. Hello and welcome and good morning to the California Financing Coordinating Committee's Funding Fair event. My name is Saressa Hartwell and I'm with the State Water Resources Control Board and I will be your moderator today. Let's begin about an overview of the day. We'll have some introductions and then we'll have presentations and then we have evaluations and then virtual booths. The presentations are going to be shortened this time. It's just they're going to be very brief, so that just tell them the presenters are just going to talk about who they're with and what kind of programs they have. So it's about 7 minutes each. So I encourage all of you to just attend their virtual booths and ask as many questions that you can about any project that you might think about having in the future, or a project that you have right now, or any type of information about what's eligible, who can and who cannot. I mean, the components of a project. Just go. I just encourage you to just visit the virtual funding, the virtual booths, to just talk directly with the agencies. The virtual booths were open today at the end of the last presenter. There will be a box down here that has 4 different breakout rooms. And then you can just join any of the rooms as you wish. Each of the agencies have their own breakout room. However, the federal agencies are all sharing because they like to share like that. I do want to encourage anyone who's in the Tulare area. We're having an in-person funding fair on November 14th. There at the Southern California Edison Company Training Energy Education Center. The timeline this time, though, instead of being in the morning, it's going to be in the afternoon from 1 to 4. And the focus would be on agency tables. Each agency would have their own table, and instead of coming to a podium and giving a presentation, again, they're going to give a brief presentation about who they are, what type of projects they have, who's eligible, and you can just walk up and talk to them and pick up any informational materials they have on their desk. Again, if you're in the Tulare area, we encourage you to walk in, even if you don't even sign up or register pre-hand. Walk-ins are just fine, but we do ask that you bring a business card because there's going to be a little counter there, a little a bowl so that we can know who showed up to the funding fair and have some type of contact information, just in case you can't join a funding, the virtual booth. We can contact you through your business card. So please, if you're going to come, please bring a business card. Today's agenda will be available in the chat. I will put that in the chat momentarily, but right now let's look at the agenda. Well, as I said, I'm Teresa Hartwell, and I gave the overview of what's going to happen today. We're going to start with the state and local agencies. They're going to present. We're starting with the California Grants Portal, which is a very good resource for you to find what type of finances out there through the state agencies. And then after the last state the local agency presents, we're going to have a break. And then we're going to conclude with the federal agencies presenting, and we're going to see a presentation about the grants.gov, where the federal government will put their funding opportunities. So with that, I want to begin with our very first speaker, Shabani. She is with like I said, she's going to give us a presentation on the California Grants Portal. So let me stop sharing my screen and let Shabani start sharing hers. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Let me share my screen before we get started. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and I'm excited to share this resource with all of you. If you already don't know about it, California Grants Portal is grants.ca.gov. You'll be hearing more about grants.gov in a little while as well. So I wanted to share this resource as a way for all of you to be able to utilize to find any eligible grant opportunities in the state of California. These grant opportunities are added by state agencies per a specific definition that is driven by a legislation, AB 2252, allows state agencies to put any competitive first come, first serve, including loans and federal assistance funds, onto this portal as they become available for open application. So as you come to the grants.ca.gov, there are different ways to get into and finding eligible grant opportunities. I'm not going to go over a deep dive into how to search for it. If you do have any questions about this, feel free to reach out afterwards. Find grants up on top here. If you go to it will give you an advanced search and allows you to filter by different various filters. So if one is agencies by category, there's 19 categories that you can select from. Eligible applicant type, so if you're a nonprofit or you're a small business or even an individual. And then disbursement method, right? There's a reimbursement or advance or both or other. It's going to default forecasted active grant opportunities up front. So forecasted are grants that are not open for application. However, they might be coming up in the future. So it's good to kind of get a sense of it. These opportunities are not mandated by the legislation. Therefore, it is up to the department, a state agency, to provide forecasted grant opportunities. However, if they are active grant opportunities open for applications today, they are required by the legislation. And so state agencies have been adding those as they become available on their site. So you can search by keyword. There's a little tooltip here that tells you what type of keyword search is allowed. And pretty much if it's in the text of the grant opportunity or in the title, it will generate the actual results once you hit apply filter. So also you can save your refinements for future visits onto the grants.ca.gov. If let's say you selected, I am a nonprofit, I only look for grant opportunities under environment water, which is what all the Department of Water Resources or any of the water related grant will be under. And then I am going to actually do a save current refinement. It's going to tell me that I'm going to save forecasted active, any agency, category is environment and water, and eligible applicant nonprofit. So if there's when you come back to this site, it would automatically generate this filter. It's going to drop a cookie in your browser. So if you actually clean out your cache and cookies on your browser, it will go away, right? So you'll have to resave it. However, if you don't, it will stay there. And when you come here, it will automatically filter it by already saved cookie on your browser. So that's a good little tip there. If you are someone who only comes in for a specific type of grants. All grant opportunities here listed provides you with a resource, which means that every state department per the legislation is required to give us a phone number and an email address to ask any questions. So if you have specific questions about the grant itself, we may not have the answer for it. However, you can contact the department via the resource information available on the bottom of the page. You are required to read your guidelines before applying. So this grant guidelines here will take you to the department's website to apply. We do not host applications on the site, so therefore you still have to go through the department's process to be able to apply for an eligible grant opportunity. So, but it gives you all of the eligible grant opportunities in one place. So if you're looking for any, let's say, disaster prevention and relief grants, it's going to give you every disaster prevention and relief grant from all the departments, rather than only one or two departments that you might be in the past used to going to. So that's kind of the good thing about the grants portal is it's all a central place. You can subscribe to our notifications. The notifications will be daily or weekly. You can pick whichever one you like, and it will send you a digest of every new grant opportunity that is posted on the grants portal by the state agencies in your email. So you don't have to come to the portal all the time, but you can still get to see what's new that's coming out. You can select by category, or you can say all new grant opportunities, so every category here. So it's one or the other. If you select both, you will receive duplicate emails. So just note that you want to select one of the categories or the newest grants for the notification. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. The email is provided on the agenda. Happy to answer any questions. We do not provide technical assistance, unfortunately, to find grants, but we can always direct you how to search for something specific. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sarisa as well.
Thank you, Shivani. Our next speaker is coming from the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, Abby Edward. So Abby, please.
Hi, I'm just gonna share my screen. Apologies for not getting that set up right away.
No worries.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Great. Thanks for bearing with me. So yeah, I'm here today to talk about the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and our 3 grant programs under the Integrated Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Program. And these were established through the 2021 and 2022 budget. These are the Adaptation Planning Grant Program, the Extreme Heat and Community Resilience Grant Program, and the Regional Resilience Grant Program. All these grants fund local, regional, and tribal climate adaptation and resilience efforts across the state. So the first one that I'll talk about is the Regional Resilience Grant Program. And this program aims to support local, regional, and tribal entities' regional scale climate resilience solutions. This program will target funding to 2 grant types with $21 million in round 1 for planning and implementation grants that will fund capacity building activities integrated through both planning and implementation grants. Right now, they are wrapping up their review and they plan to announce the awards for their first round of funding in December. And then they expect that the round 2 will be spring of 2024. The regional program focuses on regional partnerships and projects that are aligned with ICART priorities to reduce climate risks. The program also aims to address the greatest climate risks in each region with a strong emphasis on supporting vulnerable communities. And another goal of the program is to fill the funding gaps in climate resilience funding and support sustainable and cohesive climate resilience projects. So they fund two main types of grants. There's the planning grants that are for applicants who want to involve their community in in determining how to address climate risks in their region. And also funds can assess regional climate risks, create regional plans for resilience, prepare for implementation, and more. The planning grant amount range from $150,000 to $650,000. And implementation grants are for applicants who already know some of the steps that they need to take to address the climate risks in their regions. And so the funds can support projects that reduce climate risks. For physical projects, those can be infrastructure projects, and for non-physical projects, these can involve programs or processes. The implementation grants range from $650,000 to $3 million. So the next program is the Adaptation Planning Grant Program, and this one has $25 million over 3 rounds of funding to support local, regional, and tribal communities in engaging in integrated climate adaptation planning. So we awarded $8 million for round 1 in funding back in June, and awards were from $150,000 to $650,000. There's a quick look at our program timeline, and we plan to release guidelines for public comment later this year, and we'll have $9.5 million available for round 2. The APGP program has some kind of key goals. The first is to enhance accessibility and diversity, to prioritize vulnerable communities and a community-centric approach, to emphasize integrated infrastructure planning, and to build community capacity for resilience, and also elevate equity throughout the planning process. The eligible entities are local public entities, California Native American tribes, community-based nonprofits. And for this, there should be a minimum of 1 co-applicant in addition to the lead applicant. So we have requirements that either the lead applicant or one of the co-applicants should be a public entity or a tribe. And that community-based organizations should partner with one. And then similarly, public entities, if they're the lead, they should partner with a community-based organization to ensure that the planning efforts are really centering the needs of vulnerable communities. We have eligible activities that are centered around the adaptation planning guide. And it's sort of 4 different phases of adaptation planning. And let's see, the last program that I'll talk about is the Extreme Heat and Community Resilience Program. And this is the newest of the 3 programs. So they'll plan to fund planning and implementation projects that reduce the impacts of extreme heat and build community resilience. The program will build frameworks for change and invest in local, regional, and tribal partnerships that strengthen communities that are vulnerable to heat. Extreme Heat program is dedicated to supporting statewide movement focused on building resilience to extreme heat, job creation, placemaking, placekeeping, and protecting the health of Californians who are most vulnerable to heat. The program will fund $118 million in planning and implementation projects. The planning grants will facilitate the development of partnerships and strengthen collaborations as communities prepare for extreme heat events. And the implementation projects will support communities in piloting programs and infrastructure projects. So they have 4 main goals that are listed here. Again, similar to the other programs, to prioritize equitable outcomes, coordinating the state's effort on extreme heat, encouraging communities to actively plan for extreme heat by centering the needs of vulnerable communities, and also to build statewide capacity to implement equitable planning strategies. So for them, similar eligibility as well, local public entities, Native American tribes, CBOs, they plan to offer different types of grants. They'll have small planning grants and large planning grants. And those are anywhere from 100,000 to 750,000. And then they'll do small implementation grants and large implementation grants. The small planning grants are really available to communities that want to develop partnerships. The large planning grants are meant to build community-wide programs or infrastructure projects that can help communities address extreme heat. The small implementation grants can fund single site or single technology projects. And then the large implementation projects can combine multiple infrastructure solutions and locations. And this program has their public comment period open right now, and they're closing December 7th. So there's a QR code. I'll leave it up for a minute. You can submit the public comments to our grants email address, and they have a couple of public workshops coming up here pretty soon. And lastly, here's the contact information for the 3 program managers for all of the different grants. And I'll also drop the link to our website in the chat for folks to learn more. If you have questions, happy to answer them. And if you join the breakout. Thanks.
Thank you, Abby, for that. Our next speaker is going to be Gabriel Edwards. He's with the Department of Water Resources.
All right. Hi, all. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Gabriel, as Sarsa mentioned. I'm a senior environmental scientist at the Department of Water Resources. And today I'm just going to give you a brief overview of DWR's current funding programs. So before I get into specifics, I just want to quickly touch on DWR funding eligibility. So generally, our applicants or our grant applicants must be tribal governments, nonprofits, or public or local agencies. Oh, can't see my screen. Hold on. Sorry. Apologies, everyone. Give me 1 second. Can you see my screen now, or is it still not sharing?
Yes, we can see your screen, but it is not on presentation mode.
My goodness. Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties.
Well, it has now been fixed because we can see your screen and it's in presentation mode.
Okay, that's a good sign. All right, let's get back into it. Okay, so skip over the preamble. All right, can you see my general eligibility slide?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, sorry about that, everyone. So yeah, I just want to get into a little bit about general eligibility for DWR funding before we get into the different funding programs. So as I mentioned before, our grant applicants must be tribal governments, nonprofits, or public or local agencies generally. And then for that last one, I have a list of just examples to expand on that. It's like state agencies, cities, counties, mutual water companies, et cetera. The main thing to be aware of is we usually do not have funding for private entities or landowners. And then if you're interested in a particular funding program I talked about today, I always recommend checking the program guidelines to see if you're eligible or contacting the program directly to confirm eligibility. The best resource for applying to DWR funding programs is our grants and loans website, which looks like this. There's a QR code at the bottom if you want to go directly to it from your phone. So this lists our active funding programs, and it has links to funding resources. So you've got the specific DWR funding program websites themselves and the California Grants Portal. And then both the California Grants Portal and the funding program websites have application submittal, eligibility, and contact info. And again, you can always contact a funding program directly to learn more about how to apply. So this is a list of our active funding programs at the moment, and I'll be covering today. So first up are the Small Community Drought Relief and the County Drought Resilience Planning Assistance Programs. For Small Community Drought Relief, There's 10.9 million available for temporary household water tanks, water hauling, and bottled water projects. This program closes at the end of this year on December 29th, 2023. Projects for this must benefit small communities and rural communities not served by an urban water supplier. And then here's a list of eligible applicants, very similar to what I covered before for our general eligibility. For the County Drought Resilience Planning Assistance Program, this is eligible only to California counties, and this supports counties in establishing a standing drought task force or development of a county drought resilience plan per SB 552. So for this, there's 5 million available. This is a sub-program of the Small Community Drought Relief Program I just talked about, so it also closes at the end of this year, but this is a non-competitive grant program. There's a max award of $125,000 per county. And this program also offers direct planning assistance if a county wants help directly instead of receiving a grant. Next is Riverine Stewardship Program. This program supports fish passage and ecological improvements for streams. There's 6.48 million available. Applications for this are accepted until all funds have been expended. Here's a list of eligible applicants. You've got tribes, local public agencies, and certified nonprofits. This program does have a limited geographic scope, so projects are limited to counties within the Association of Bay Area Governments, which you can see on the map here on the right. It's the cross-hatched area in black in the Bay Area. Projects for this Riverine Stewardship Program, they must support habitat restoration and green infrastructure designs and solutions that improve water quality and supply. Project must be consistent with Water Code Section 79205.6. And then some example projects, so you got habitat restoration and improvement efforts like gravel injection, fish passage solutions that remove barriers to fish migration, or otherwise just improve fish passage, and improvements to water conveyance within riverine habitats. Next is the Urban Streams Restoration Program. This program provides funding for restoring streams impacted by urban development. There's a little under 10 million remaining. Applications also accepted for this one until all the funds have been expended. And this one is eligible to partnerships of 2 applicants. So there must be a sponsor and a co-sponsor, 1 local public agency, tribe, or certified nonprofit, and 1 local community group. And then here's a list of example projects: daylighting of streams, bank stabilization, native revegetation. There's also planning only grants for projects serving disadvantaged communities. And then an important thing to keep in mind for this one is that the project must include a public education or outreach component. The In-Stream Flow Water Purchase Program. This program funds acquisition of in-stream flows in the Sacramento-San Joaquin watershed January through June. So this is to ensure water for beneficial in-stream flows is made available from those with like the legal rights to use or like dedicate that water. There's 360 million available, applications accepted until funds are depleted. This one's a little different. Individuals are eligible to apply to this program, but applicants must provide at least 2,000 acre-feet of water for in-stream flow enhancement. And then lastly, we've got the Statewide Flood Emergency Response Grant Program. So this program provides funding for emergency responders to enhance local flood emergency preparedness and response. California public agencies with primary responsibility for flood emergency response and coordination are eligible to apply. So generally, that's like counties, cities, certain districts and agencies like flood control districts and tribal governments. The geographic scope of this grant is statewide except for the legal delta. So if you're in the delta, you're not eligible to apply to this program. There's 1.4 million available and applications are accepted until the funds are depleted. And then these pictures are just a couple example projects. On the left is Yolo County received a grant to run a 5-county tabletop emergency exercise. And on the right is a picture of a Solano County comms vehicle that was funded through this program. And types of projects include flood safety plans and maps, as well as communication and decision-making tools and equipment. And here's a couple more example project pictures. San Joaquin County created these flood emergency response maps with consistent emergency information. And on the right is a picture of shipping containers filled with flood fighting materials like sandbags, which have been purchased under this grant. Because our programs are constantly subject to change, please check either the DWR Grants and Loans page, which I showed earlier, or the California Grants portal regularly for up-to-date info. You can always filter the California Grants portal for DWR funding opportunities. This will give you this list that you can see on the right. which includes a list of like all the DWR active grants, including the ones that we talked about today. And then finally, we have lots of additional resources and information on our website, and there are links to those resources in the DWR slides. All the slides from today are going to be on the CFCC website, which has been posted in the chat. If you have questions about DWR funding, please email funding@water.ca.gov, or please feel free to reach out to me directly or to Leslie Pierce. We'd be happy to answer any questions. And that's everything. That's the end of my presentation. So I look forward to speaking with you in our breakout room at the end of the funding fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is from the iBank, and it's Lydia and Amico. They will start sharing their screen. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, also known as iBank. My name is Amico. I'm an analyst here at iBank, and I'm joined by Lydia, who is one of our outstanding loan officers. We're here to share why iBank may be a good fit for financing for helping to finance your infrastructure projects. As stated before in the chat, the slide deck is going to be available on the CFCC website, so you don't have to worry about taking detailed notes. After the presentation, please come and join us in the breakout room so that we can speak to you about your specific projects and give you more details. So iBank was created in 1994 to provide low-cost financing options to eligible borrowers for a wide range of infrastructure projects. We are a state agency. We are also housed in the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, also known as GoBiz. Just a quick few notes about iBank's current focus areas. We are focused on creating and preserving jobs, expanding access to underserved communities, being inclusive and intentional in who and how we serve Californians. We're also addressing climate change. iBank is expanding its role in climate financing, investing in and enabling projects that are addressing the climate crisis in a meaningful way. So here are our core programs. Unfortunately, because of time constraints today, we're not going to go into each one of them in depth. I will do a brief overview. Mainly today, we're focused on the top icon, which is the Infrastructure State Revolving Fund Program. That's our iSurf Direct Loan Program. Our other core programs that we have are our climate financing, which includes loans for projects that help the state meet its goal for greenhouse gas reduction, water conservation, and environmental preservation. iBank is also a general purpose conduit bond issuer, facilitating issuance of tax-exempt or taxable bonds for various public or private sector projects. We have the capacity to issue large projects over $1 billion in our bond financing program. Unlike our infrastructure loans, which are direct loans, we do not lend directly to small businesses. Instead, our Small Business Finance Center works more behind the scenes. They work with nonprofits called financial development corporations to offer guarantees to lenders who in turn will lend to small business owners. And on the screen, you can just see a few of the projects that we financed in the last year. So we have the Sacramento County new transfer station that was built earlier this year, or we financed earlier this year for $35 million on a 30-year loan. We also assisted Tiburon in financing to build a new fire station for $4.3 million. We've assisted the city of Watsonville in starting to build a 7.1 acre landfill for $6 million. And in the very last icon, the California Water Boards, this was a bond issuance that our bond unit did for over $500 million. And now I'm going to pass it over to Lydia.
Thanks, Amico. Just on this slide right here, this is just a small list of the different types of projects that are eligible with us. This is not an exhaustive list, so please feel free to jump into the breakout room if you think that your project might be an eligible project. For iBank, an eligible project means any cost associated with the project, including designing, acquiring, planning, construction, restoring the project within the state. Just one big thing here with us is all projects must be within the state of California. We do not do anything outside of California. The other thing is iBank funds cannot be used for soft costs only. So if you're wanting to use iBank funds to pay design costs and planning costs alone, we don't allow for that. The project must be included in that. Again, one of the projects that we've been focusing on are projects related to SB 1383 and Sacramento County loan that we did earlier this year is an example of that. And we do have more projects in the works. The one thing that we cannot do is we cannot do housing itself. We can do all the infrastructure around it, like sewer and water lines, streets, street lights, as long as it's on publicly owned land, but we cannot use our money towards the construction of the home. Go ahead and move next slide. There are a few ways that we determine if a project is viable. One of the ways that we do that is with cash flow, and that's based off of your annual comprehensive financial report for previous years. Typically, we look at 5 years, and we also look at 5 years of projections as well. And we're looking for up and down trends, and we're just looking to know what happened, why those trends happened. Another one is project use. Our loans are usually used for tax exempt purposes, so we don't necessarily allow private activity. If there is private activity, we may have to do a taxable loan. So an example of that would be if you had a little cafe in a community center that wasn't being run by the city or the county. The other thing we look at is lease agreements. If the lease agreement is, if the project is going to be built on land that is not owned by the borrowing entity, so like the city or county, we do want to see the lease agreement just to make sure that there are no clauses that interfere with the project being built and to make sure that the lease is good for the duration of the term of the loan. And then the other thing we look at is repayment source. We want to typically have a dedicated project or repayment source for the project. So typically general fund or enterprise fund. If there are measure funds that are supporting this project, we typically use the general fund as a repayment source since those funds typically filter through the general fund. Next slide. And just a little bit about why iBank would be great for your infrastructure loans. So we can do up to 100% of the financing. We don't have a scoring mechanism or a wait list, and we are continuously accepting applications. We're AAA rated, so our cost of funds tends to be lower, and we can pass those savings on to our borrowers. And we can also do terms for up to 30 years as long as the useful life of the project is at least 30 years. Everything is on a first come first serve basis. We issue our own bonds, so we don't run out of money. And with iBank, you get transparency every step of the way. There is no surprises. And last slide. If you have any questions, please feel free to meet us in the breakout room. We would love to answer any questions that you have. And our contact information is on the screen. You're also welcome to visit our website at ibank.ca.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, iBank. I always like hearing about how much money you guys have to offer. Because you always have some money.
We do.
Our next speaker is from Cal Recycle. They're going to tell you how you can recycle and help the environment.
Thank you so much, Serena. And big thank you to both Serena and Gabriel, who are our coordinators for these funding fairs. I am putting this into presentation mode, so hopefully you guys can all see that. Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Dallas Isaiah, and I am the supervisor of one of 2 greenhouse gas reductions units at Cal Recycle. Today, I'm going to talk about our grant and loan programs with available funding, as well as how to learn about future funding. So our greenhouse gas reduction grants include the Organics Grant Program, Co-Digestion Grant Program, Edible Food Recovery, Recycled Fiber, Plastic and Glass, Community Composting for Green Spaces, and Reuse. Cal Recycle has many grant and loan programs to address various types of waste sent to landfill. This is not an exhaustive list of every program that we have. We have many that are payment programs for jurisdictions. So if you are interested in that sort of funding, please come into the breakout room later. The primary purpose of these funds up on the screen these programs is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by significantly reducing the amount of organic and non-organic waste going to landfill. Most of our programs include secondary benefits to priority populations as well by providing jobs, infrastructure, community services, and other resources. Not all of the grant programs here are funded each year. The state budget determines which programs are funded, but programs addressing diverting organics from landfill tend to be prioritized. Our current open solicitations include the Community Composting for Green Spaces grant program. This cycle is now open to tribes in California with $510,000 available. This cycle is for qualifying tribal entities only. Applications will be due in late January 2024, January 23rd, and awards are anticipated in March. Additionally, this month, CalRecycle is awarding our almost $155 million in our largest organics grant program cycle to date. So if you're interested in learning more about that, that will be in our monthly public meeting, which is available on the CalRecycle website. Additionally, open applications include the GHG Reduction Loan Program and the RMDZ Loan Program, which is the Recycling Market Development Zone Loan Program. So the Community Composting for Green Spaces grant program, again, this is now available funds, $510,000 allocation from the California Climate Investments Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. The purpose of this grant program is to increase community scale composting programs supporting green spaces. Green spaces include community gardens, urban farms, and other public spaces where small scale composting is appropriate. In this cycle, eligibility is limited to qualifying tribal entities. A qualifying tribal entity is defined as a band, a tribe, a nation, or other organized group or community residing within the borders of California, which is recognized for special programs and services provided by the United States because of the status of its members as Native Americans, or which can establish that it is a government entity and which meets the criteria of the grant program. If you have any questions about what a qualifying tribal entity is, please come into the breakout room. So some quick information about the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Loan Program. There's $2.5 million available. GHG Reduction Loan Program provides support for composting and anaerobic digestion facilities that are new or expanding their infrastructure, as well as facilities that manufacture fiberplastic or glass waste materials into beneficial products. The loans can fund machinery and equipment, including vehicles and other rolling stock, working capital, real estate purchases or improvements, and the refinancing of onerous debt. So again, loan applications are accepted continuously and loans will be awarded subject to availability of program funds. In our Recycling Market Development Loan Program, the RMDZ loans, there's $21 million available. Facilities must use post-consumer or secondary recovered waste feedstock that is generated in California. Again, the loans can fund pretty much the same thing as the other loan program: machinery, vehicles, rolling stock, working capital, real estate, or refinancing of onerous debt. And just like the other loan program, this one is accepted continuously for applications and awarded subject to funding availability. So you can stay informed about CalRecycle's grant funding opportunities by signing up for the relevant listserv on CalRecycle's website. So if you just go to calrecycle.ca.gov, and there's a magnifying glass symbol up at the top that allows you to search the website, and you just put in listserv into that, it'll come up with a list. We have like 60 listservs at CalRecycle about various interests or markets. You know, there's an organics listserv, there's a community composting listserv, there is definitely an RMDZ listserv. So these all have, you know, their own specific information that is sent to subscribers regularly. You don't get anything else from the listserv, no junk mail. Doesn't sign you up for anything else. You just get information about CalRecycle's funding opportunities, and is also ways that you can stay engaged regarding those topics. A great way to stay informed of funding opportunities is to develop a plan and partnership early, participate in CalRecycle's public meetings, When you're reading the applications and guidelines and instructions when applying, make sure you read the whole thing. Make sure you read all of the eligibility requirements for both entities and projects. We publicly post questions and answers for every cycle. So review those Q&A pages also, and feel free to submit questions to the question and answer process by the deadlines. And make sure, this one seems obvious, but make sure you complete the application documents and submit them on time. Most of our programs have hard due dates, and late applications will not be accepted. So you can reach out to us about grants in general at grants@calrecycle.ca.gov. You can find out more about all of our grant programs, payment programs, and loan programs at calrecycle.ca.gov/funding. And again, the CalRecycle listserv homepage is linked right there if you care to jot that down. But an easy way to find that information is to go to the CalRecycle homepage and just search for listservs. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for coming to this funding fair, and please feel free to join me in the breakout room later if you have any questions.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Our next speaker is going to be from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Ron Miller. He'll start sharing his screen momentarily. We see your screen.
All right. Good morning. My name is Ron Miller. I'm the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Branch Chief here at Cal OES, and today I'm going to talk about the hazard mitigation grants that are available through Cal OES, and talk about what you need to be eligible for these programs and how to go about applying for our funding. So the funding we're talking about today is funding that comes from FEMA and is administered here in California by Cal OES. And hazard mitigation is defined as projects that provide long-term independent solutions that reduce risk to life and property from natural hazard events. So the idea here is that we break the chain of repeated disaster damage and rebuilding by making structures and systems more resilient to the natural hazards. We administer 3 major programs from FEMA. The first is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. This program funds hazard mitigation actions within California. So this is funding that's competitive within California, and it comes to us as a result of major disaster declarations based on a formula of the total federal assistance required to recover from a major disaster. Cal OES receives funding that we can administer in California, and we know how much we are going to get after these disasters occur. If your potential project is selected for funding under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, it is pretty much a sure thing that it's going to be approved by FEMA once it goes through FEMA's review. Contrasting that with the 2 other non-disaster programs, which are Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, or BRIC, and the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, FMA. These programs differ in that we receive the sub-applications from California entities. We review them, help you get those to be eligible, feasible, and cost-effective, and then we submit those to FEMA for the national competition for the available funding. So these non-disaster grant programs are annual. They typically occur at the same time every year. Generally, FEMA releases the Notice of Funding Opportunity in August. This year it was late. We didn't get it until October. And so the schedule's a little bit delayed this year. The BRIC program is for funding large infrastructure projects, whole community projects that reduce risk, but all hazard types are eligible for BRIC. For the flood mitigation assistance program, these projects are limited to flood projects that protect properties that are insured by the National Flood Insurance Program. Many communities may not know how many insurance policies exist for structures and residents in their communities. So you can reach out to us and obtain that information if you're interested in flood mitigation assistance. Again, this program is annual and nationally competitive, and it's already underway. But this year, FEMA, when they released the Notice of Funding Opportunity, they did change things up a little bit and make additional funding available for community capacity and capability building, especially related to building codes. So while our notice of interest or proposal period has ended, we are accepting late notices of interest if you have a project related to strengthening building codes. So definitely reach out to us. I'll be available in the virtual booth later today. But if you have any project scoping or building code improvement projects, we can talk about those and possibly get your potential project into the pipeline, even though we're a little bit after our notice of interest cutoff. Eligibility. So these hazard mitigation assistance programs are eligible to cities, counties, and special districts and federally recognized tribes. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is also available to private nonprofit organizations. With the exception of private nonprofit organizations, an eligible entity must have a FEMA-approved and locally adopted hazard mitigation plan. For the HMGP program, you can be developing your plan or in the process of updating your plan when you apply for the funding. The BRIC and FMA programs are a little more stringent. You must have your plan in place at time of application, which is December, and at time of obligation as well, which is once the once the project has been reviewed and approved by FEMA. You have to have an eligible activity, so the activity has to address a problem caused by a natural hazard. The solution needs to provide a long-term independent solution for people, structures, and infrastructure, and it cannot be dependent upon other actions to be successful. So these are measures that will protect even if there are not people able to respond to those hazard events. For instance, we don't fund response activities related to fire. So if you have a project that you are considering, please be able to discuss what the natural hazard is that you want to address, what the problem is caused by that natural hazard, and what happens if the project is not completed. Some of the sub-application types include planning. So if your community does not have a local hazard mitigation plan, we can fund the update or development of those local hazard mitigation plans. The plans do take around 18 months to develop. So plan ahead. If you do have a local hazard mitigation plan that is going to expire in the next couple of years, you can get in line for funding to get that plan updated. Advance assistance is a project type that we make available for communities to refine or develop a sub-application. It'll fund studies and engineering, development of the benefit cost analysis, and development of the complete sub-application. We prioritize socially vulnerable communities for this advanced assistance funding. And the next major project type, or actually sub-application type, are regular projects. They come in two flavors, phased and non-phased. So a non-phased project is shovel-ready. You know the solution. You know all the locations where the work will be done, and designs are at 60% or greater. A phased project is used when you know the solution, but you don't know the exact location, or you don't have your designs completed. Phase 1 is generally design, phase 2 is construction. And it's important to know this when you're applying for funding. The applications are a little bit different, but we can definitely help you with that in advance. So we do want you to reach out to us, and I'll provide an email link. If you don't want to join me in the virtual booth later today, you can always email us as well. This is the email address to contact us if you have any questions, hma@callaways.ca.gov. If you want to schedule a scoping call to discuss a potential project, please reach out to us, request a scoping call. If you can provide a little bit of information about the hazard that you want to address, or the project type that you are considering, we can have the correct subject matter experts on that call with you, and help you determine if you can thread the needle in our eligibility requirements and get this funding. Again, I look forward to seeing you in the virtual booth, and thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Our next presenter is from the State Water Resources Control Board, and they'll be sharing their scheme and telling you about the financing opportunities there. Yes, we see your screen.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Sarissa. So good morning. My name is Abhijit Ranji. I'm in the Division of Financial Assistance at the State Water Resources Control Board. Today we'll provide a brief introduction to many of the grant loan programs that DFA has to offer, and there are tons of them. So I've tried to kind of go as quickly as possible within the time allocated. Programs, I encourage you to review the CFCC handbook. DFA program starts at page 51 or page 57 of the PDF. The State Water Board has several wastewater funding programs that provides funding for planning and construction projects to restore, maintain compliance with your WDRs and NPDES permits, which is your waste discharge requirements, and National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits. Grants are available, and priority is given to septic to sewer projects. Programs under this includes Clean Water State Revolving Fund and Water Recycling Funding Program. The State Water Board has numerous drinking water funding programs that I'll discuss in terms of long-term solutions. The State Water Board provides funding for drinking water infrastructure projects that are needed to maintain compliance with Safe Drinking Water Act requirements. There's grants and low interest rate loans that are available for this funding program. Priority is given to project that addresses category A through C or consolidation projects. And in addition, we have funding for lead service line inventory and replacement. Program under this funding program includes Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, Expedited Drinking Water Grant Funding Program, and Lead Service Line Replacement Funding Program. The last of the twos are relatively new to DFA, I believe within the last year or so, they've been implemented. Drinking water interim solutions that addresses urgent drinking water needs. Eligible projects include bottled water, hauled water, well repair, well rehabilitation, replacement, vending machines, point of use devices, emergency interties or treatment systems, state small water systems, and domestic well serving disadvantaged and low-income households are eligible under this program. Programs include clean water and abatement urgent drinking water needs, county-wide and regional funding program, and emergency drinking water CAA, which is cleanup and abatement account. State Water Board provides funding for schools that benefits daycare, preschools, and K-12 schools. These programs fund point of use at point of entry treatment systems, also known as POU and POE, fixture replacements, installation of drinking water fountains, provisions of interim drinking water supplies. These programs are typically administered by nonprofit organizations. The programs are water for schools and drinking water for schools, and both of them are grant programs. There are several State Water Board funded drinking water funding programs that are administered by counties and nonprofit organizations. These programs provide funds to households served by domestic wells or state small water systems to address water quality issues. These programs are domestic water wells and state smalls program and the drinking water assistance for households. There's also technical assistance available at the State Water Board. DFA technical assistance is available to support water needs. An example of project types that TA can assist with include funding applications, project planning and administration, engineering and environmental services, assistance, rate studies, income surveys, capacity building, and emergency response for drinking water projects only. Priorities are given to small disadvantaged communities and in accordance with drinking water and wastewater funding priorities. Requests for TA assistance are accepted continuously. Assistance are typically granted based on capacity and program priorities. State Water Board has several site cleanup funding programs. These are grants for cleanup of a site contaminated by leaky UST, which is an underground storage tank, in a scenario where there's no financial responsible party. In addition, DFA has grants UST owners or operators to come into compliance with the UST requirements. The programs are Orphan Site Cleanup, SB 445 Site Cleanup and Sub-Account Program, which is also known as SCAP, removal, replacement, or upgrading underground storage tanks, also known as RUST. The non-point source program funds projects that reduces or mitigate the effects of non-point source pollutants, such as sediments, pesticides, nutrients to waters of the states within the priority watersheds. The application for this funding program is being currently accepted in FAST. I'll talk about FAST in one of the later slides. The application period for this funding program ends next month in December 15th. Okay, at this point, I'd like to point out some resources. I mentioned CFCC handbook at the beginning of the presentation. The DFA funding program starts on page 51 or page 57 within the PDF document. DFA website has all the funding program details, contains guidance documents, contact informations, and FAQs. Stay informed. If you want to stay informed, you can subscribe to email subscription list. Please look for DFA within the email subscription list. And also just want to mention that many of the funding programs, such as drinking water SRF, clean water SRF, uses FAST, FAST as a way to accept applications. It's an web-based tool. It's accessible 24 hours a day. There's a FAST help desk that's available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So feel free to call or email your questions if you have any questions regarding the funding programs outlined. Please join us in the virtual booth a virtual breakout session, I believe in the afternoon or late morning. If any questions, please ask. On behalf of State Water Board DFA, I'd like to thank you for your assistance, and we'll see you in a couple of hours. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Much appreciated. Our next speaker is from the Strategic Growth Council. It's Brianna and Jessica.
Hi there, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen very quickly. All right, feel free to interrupt if you cannot see my screen, but otherwise I'll get going. So hi everyone, my name is Brianne Logasa and I am an AHSC Program Associate for the Strategic Growth Council, or SGC. The Strategic Growth Council is a collaboration among various state agencies such as the Office of Planning and Research, the Air Resources Board, Housing and Community Development, and more, lots of different agencies. And the goal is to achieve sustainability, equity, economic prosperity, and quality of life for all Californians. So today I'm going to give a brief overview of just a couple of SGC's programs. So the first program I'm going to talk about is the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities, or AHSC program. The vision of this program is to fund infill housing and transportation projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. The funding for this program is from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, also known as Cap and Trade. And for this upcoming round, the program has $650 million to disperse. Applicants must request a minimum of $10 million and a maximum of $50 million. All right, so here's a little bit more about what AHSC funds. We fund affordable housing developments, housing-related infrastructure, sustainable transportation infrastructure, transportation-related amenities, and community programs. The most competitive applications include a combination of many, if not all, of these funding categories. So a little bit on the timeline of this program. Round 8 for AHSC is officially underway. The draft guidelines are out and available on our website, listed at the bottom of this slide. We will release final guidelines in December with a NOFA release in January. Applications will be due in March, and awards will be adopted by Council in August 2024. If you have any questions about AHSC, feel free to email us at ahsc@sgc.ca.gov. And I'll also be in the breakout rooms later. All right, the next program I'm going to go over briefly is the Transformative Climate Communities, or TCC program. This program funds community-led transformation to support communities most impacted by pollution. These communities choose their own goals, strategies, and projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and local air pollution. The TCC program is currently finishing up a round of funding for both planning and implementation grants. So for their next round of funding, be sure to check in regularly on their website, which is listed at the bottom of this slide. And for any questions on TCC, you can email their team at tcc@sgc.ca.gov. And there are a lot of other SGC programs that I did not get the chance to talk about today. I wanted to keep this presentation brief, but you can go to our website, sgc.ca.gov, to learn more, or you can find me in the breakout rooms later. So that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that information. Seems like you can build a whole city there. Okay, our next presenter is from the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, and after they present, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. So let me stop and let them speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Archer. I'm a senior loan officer with the Rural Community Assistance Corporation. And today I'm going to talk about our technical assistance and loan programs. Rural Community Assistance Corporation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates in the 13 Western states and Pacific Islands. We serve Indigenous and rural communities through training, technical and financial assistance and advocacy. Our major programs include community and economic development, environmental, housing, lending, and Native communities. The RCAC Community and Environmental Services Department provides technical assistance to rural communities to build, improve, manage, operate, or finance drinking water and wastewater systems. RCAC has helped rural communities access millions of dollars in grants and loans and train thousands of individuals through customized on-site technical assistance and workshops. We understand that infrastructure development can be extensive and present many challenges that rural communities may not have the capacity to take on. Our technical assistance can help maneuver around many of the programs you have heard about today. I'll highlight a few of the areas where TA may be able to help your community. Whether submitting an application on the FAST site or USDA RD Apply, we have providers that can help you with the process. Financial analysis assesses real operating costs and presents alternative rate structures for board consideration and adoption. RCAC provides rate studies to water and wastewater utilities to promote utility sustainability, rate stability, and fairness to the ratepayers. Policy development, we can look at financial, managerial, or operational emergency response plans, vulnerability assessments, O&M manuals, or operations plans. Regional collaboration among rural communities is an innovative way to help small water and wastewater systems maintain compliance, improve aging infrastructure, and become financially sustainable over time. Our local presence allows us to develop partnerships with communities to identify needs, set goals, and help communities select the best options to meet those goals. We also provide training where we work with operators and administrators to ensure delivery of safe drinking water. Finally, we provide median household income surveys. Those help to determine eligibility for state and federal DAC status. We conduct median household income surveys for drinking water or wastewater service areas if there's a reason to believe that the available income data is not accurate representation of the MHI within the permitted service area. On the loan side, we make environmental loans to nonprofits, governmental entities, or federal or state recognized tribal entities. These entities must be located in a community of 50,000 or less and must have a median household income lower than either the county or the state non-metro MHI. Our RCAC offers loans for a wide variety of needs, including loans with terms of 20 to 30 years for bigger capital projects. The bulk of what we do, however, are short-term loans for things like feasibility studies, preliminary engineering reports, construction, and lately, especially bridge financing, where we make a loan that pays the general contractor and engineer while a utility district awaits grant reimbursement from the state. So as an example, we've got this public utility district that operates an older wastewater treatment plant that is nearing its design capacity. The California State Water Resource Control Board has committed a total of $10,660,000 in loan and grant funding for improvements to expand the updated treatment plant. The issue is that in California, the SWRCB can take 60 to 90 days to reimburse the public utility district for the costs incurred. The proposed financing provides the PUD with the ability to make timely payments to the contractor and engineer while awaiting state disbursements. This is what's called a bridge loan or a revolving line of credit. Our terms, we can offer terms up to 24 months for our short-term loans. Interest rates are currently at 5.5%. We have a 1 1/8% fee for construction loans and a 1.5% fee if the loan is revolving. So it gets paid back and then that money is available to loan out again. Collateral varies according to purpose, but is generally a grant anticipation note. So here's a link to our environmental loans application. Please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or my colleague, Barbara Rosner, who is the loan officer for Southern California. And I will be in a breakout room if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Sorry about that, you guys. I was just talking, I realized I was muted. Okay, this before we have our federal agencies speak, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break so everyone can stand up and stretch their legs. So my clock says 10:13, so we'll come back at 10:20. Right now it is 10:19, so you have about a minute before we'll begin. My computer says it is 10:20, so let's, if you guys can come back so we can listen to our next presenter from the the federal agencies. But before we do that, I want to, Blanche Paul, in the beginning, we said we were going to have some evaluations, and this would be the first of two of them. So while everyone's returning to their desks, here is the poll I'm going to launch. And it's about 8 or 9 questions for you guys to answer for us, just to get us a little feel about what's who's here and your needs. Well, here is the poll. Can everyone see the poll?
Yes.
Okay, good. For question 2, I'm curious what the other method was, how you learned about the funding fair. If you can put that in the chat, and even for the other ones that have other, if you can put in the chat where you heard it from, or what type of projects you want, or what type of entity you are, I would really appreciate that, just to understand who you are. As all the presenter has been saying, we really encourage you to visit the agency's virtual booth. As they have mentioned, these were some abbreviated presentations, and there's so much more out there. So if you just go from booth to booth, agency to agency, you can find out what kind of money they have, what they can help you with your infrastructure projects, because you know they do streets, they do community centers, they had fire trucks, they had everything up until the neighborhood, you know, street lights, bus stations. So like I said, I really encourage you all to stay and go to some of the booths, because there's a lot of money out there that can help your community. It's so interesting to see that Northern California people really like coming to the virtual funding fairs. They are always the highest location here. I'll keep the poll running, let those who may have just returned from the break to continue. I'll give it about another 60 seconds. Okay, I will end the poll right now. I appreciate all of you guys participating. This information is very useful for us to understand what your needs are and how we can better serve you and how we can make this experience at the CFCC more enjoyable. So thank you for all who participated in the poll. We really appreciate it. Our next presenter, as I say, will be David White. He is with the USBR, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. He's going to do two types of presentation. One is about the grants.gov. That is where the federal governments place their information, like the California grant.gov. So Dave, I'll give it to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is David White. I'm with the United States Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation. I'll be giving two short presentations this morning. The first is understanding how to navigate grants.gov to look for funding opportunity announcements from the federal government. The second is to talk specifically about funding opportunities available through reclamation. I'm going to summarize the presentation. I won't go through each slide. I'm happy to answer questions either in the breakout room or offline. Contact information is included at the end of my reclamation presentation. Feel free to contact me and I'll do my best to answer your questions or find someone who can. All right, grants.gov. Many federal agencies use grants.gov to advertise funding opportunities available. Each funding opportunity will have specific information to help you figure out whether or not you are an eligible entity, and is this a purpose similar to what you're thinking about doing, as well as how much money is available and any other limitations, restrictions, or opportunities. These funding opportunities used to be called NOFOs. Now, or FOAs, now they're called NOFOs, but basically it all means a funding opportunity. Each agency has a certain amount of discretionary funding available to it, and each federal fiscal year it tries to figure out how to spend that money. And if it's going to be spent through a competitive and open competition process, then we will usually use grants.gov. Now, grants.gov is a great way of finding out a whole lot of information. There's a lot of information within grants.gov. There's so much information that it actually has tutorials built into it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and we can do our best to help you understand how to navigate grants.gov. You can have a custom notifications sent to you in your email account, letting you know of future and current funding opportunities available to you, your clients, or whomever else. Now, you can search grants.gov many different ways because there's many different NOFOs out there. Some are already over with. They're archived. Some just closed recently. They're closed. Some are current. Those are posted. And then others, agencies want to let you know what's coming down the pike. And those are forecasted. And you can search all sorts of different ways. You can search by keywords. You can search by an opportunity number if you know the particular NOFO number. You can search by the Federal Domestic Assistance Number, the CFDA. You can search all sorts of different ways. Now, can you search by county? No, you cannot. Can you search by state? No, you cannot. I'm sorry, you can't do that. It would be extremely helpful, but you can't. About all you can do is search by the criteria built in, and none of them are geographic. But if you have an idea of the kind of project you're working on, or if you know that a particular agency that usually has funding available to you, that can do, and it can be very helpful. So you can search many different ways. Each one is going to pull up a particular NOFO, and then you can open up that link and it will bring you to the full announcement, which has all sorts of information inside of it. You can download the files, you can take a look at it and decide whether or not you want to apply. It will give you a lot of specific information. Here's an example from Reclamation, a previous NOFO for water use efficiency grants. Now, most NOFOs will begin with a synopsis that has all that important information, so you know right up front how much, what's the federal or non-federal cost share, who are eligible recipients, how much money is available, is there a limitation on the time in which the money must be spent, and then each NOFO will get more into details. Each NOFO will have criteria. Now, it's important to read through the NOFO, answer the criteria as best you can, be direct, and then you can explain yourself. Sort of like being on cross-examination. If it's a yes or no question, please begin with yes or no, and then you can elaborate as much as you wish. It's important that if an agency within the criteria provides a formula and asks you to calculate a number using that formula, please use that formula. If you feel like there's a better formula for your project, you can also explain that, but please use what the agency gives you in the criteria, because that is how your projects will be evaluated. So there's an application package. You put it together with any additional attachments that are necessary. You can work on it virtually, or you can download the forms, and then when you're finished, you can upload them. You can collaborate. You can do all sorts of wonderful stuff to get that application in. And after you submit that application, you're going to get a tracking number. You're going to get the timestamp so that you know that you submitted it on time. And then it's time to wait. And then after that, the agency will evaluate your application as well as many others. And then they will let you know whether or not you were successful. In terms of tips, please thoroughly read the instructions, fill out any required standard forms. SF stands for standard form. Please include as much sufficient and detailed information as the NOFO request, and as well as enough to explain your project. If there are optional forms, never hurts to fill those out. Please keep in mind your project is going to be based solely on what is in the application. Application review committees are prohibited from doing any outside research. So it's the four corners of the document. That is all the information they have to rank your project. That's why it's important to answer all the questions thoroughly. And to a certain extent, tell a compelling story about your project. Why is this important? Because most likely, if it's a project important to you, it's going to be important to the funding agency. That's it really for grants.gov. So now I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, if I can. And then I'm going to switch us over, and we're going to do a new share to something different. And let me see if I can pull that one up. All right, and here we go. Hopefully everyone can see Bureau of Reclamation, Water Conservation, Financial Assistance Opportunities. Please
Yes,
let
we
me.
see your screen, but we see not. There we go.
All right. I know to ask before I start proceeding. Okay, so reclamation. Reclamation is a bureau within the Department of the Interior. We have 5 regions that we operate in the 17 West-wide states. I realize there's 6 colors. That has to do with the interior region, not reclamation. So 6 interior regions, 5 reclamation regions. I know it's confusing, but we're all right. Here in California, we're part of 2 different regions, the California Great Basin region, headquartered out of Sacramento, and the Lower Colorado Basin, headquartered out of Boulder City, Nevada. Here within California, there are lots of people who can help you answer questions about water conservation activities as well as funding opportunities. Now, there are a lot of funding opportunities out there. 2 come from funding within our CGB region. Sometimes more than 2, but usually 2. And then there are a lot coming from our Denver-based office, which is basically under the umbrella of WaterSmart, the sustain and manage America's resources for tomorrow. I'm not going to go through each of these. A lot of information can be found online. A lot of information can be found within the NOFOs. One great thing about grants.gov is you can go back and you can look at previous NOFOs that explain a lot of information, and it gives you a better idea of future NOFOs from the same project. So if you thought maybe the WEEG, the Water and Energy Efficiency Grant, would be a good application or a good NOFO for you to submit, then you can go back and you can look at a previous one to kind of get a better idea of the kind of information required. Now, NOFOs will contain the general information, as we talked about in that synopsis, about what's the project cost or the maximum amount of funding available, whether or not there's a non-federal cost share. And I want to let y'all know the non-federal cost share can come from a variety of sources. It doesn't have to be cold hard cash in the bank. It can be a state loan. It can be all sorts of stuff. So long as it's not federal, it counts. There are certain NOFO limitations for eligibility. If you have questions about that, we're happy to answer those. We try our best to make all awards through a competitive, open, and fair competitive process. And Reclamation does use grants.gov. Now, again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a lot of opportunities out there. Over the decades, we've funded all sorts of projects, from cash for grass and toilet rebates, all the way up to desalination plants, groundwater remediation. We've done help people with basin studies. There's all sorts of projects out there that could be funded through all of these different NOFOs. Again, there's a lot out there with additional federal funding coming down the pike. We expect there to be more NOFOs. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or anybody else. Lots of, again, just lots of different opportunities out there. We're all ready to help you turn in a really good application. Cannot give you a competitive advantage over any other applicants, but we'll do our best to answer questions that you may have. So again, my name is David White. I'm with Reclamation. I will be in the breakout room if you have any questions. Great talking with y'all, and I hope y'all have a great day. So let me stop sharing if I can figure out. There we go. Back to you.
Thank you for that, David. Always enjoyable hearing your voice. Our next speaker is from the Department of Rural Housing Services Community, and they're going to give you some great information and how you can help your community.
Good morning, everyone. And let me know if you can't see my screen. My name is Sarah Brooks. I am a community programs specialist with USDA Rural Development, and I am out of the Modesto field office. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about our community facilities programs. Community facilities really covers, skipped ahead there too fast. Covers a lot of different essential facilities and infrastructure within rural communities. For instance, hospitals and health clinics, schools, daycares. We're skipping ahead there. Fire departments, police departments, community centers, and much more. Just 1 second here. I've got a pop-up on my screen that's blocking my presentation. Okay, so community facilities programs overview includes, our programs include direct loans, loan guarantees, and grants to develop or improve public services and facilities in communities of 20,000 or less for our direct loans and 50,000 or less for guaranteed loans. Eligible applicants include public bodies, nonprofits, and federally recognized Native American tribes. In fiscal year 2023, we obligated $109 million, and that was for 38 projects throughout rural California. Our direct loan program, current interest rate is 3.875%, and that is fixed at the time of loan approval. Typical loan terms are usually 38 years or less, depending on the useful life of the project. So for construction of buildings, that's going to be a 38-year term. Something with a shorter useful life, like a fire engine, for instance, would be a shorter loan term. We do require adequate security and collateral. We require that the applicant has repayment ability and that the project has feasibility. And then we also, one of the eligibility requirements that we have is that the applicant is unable to obtain other commercial credit. This is an example of a recently completed project, a community facilities loan project. This is a new fire station for Newcastle Fire Protection District. The total project cost was $4.75 million. We provided a direct loan for $3.78 million, and the applicant contributed $978,000 of their own funds. This was funded in fiscal year 2021, and it was completed in 2022. So our grants program is available to eligible applicants, including public bodies and special districts, nonprofits, corporations, and federally recognized tribes. This program is available for communities with a population of 20,000 or less. Applications are accepted year-round, and the program is currently capped at a maximum grant amount of $50,000. So because it's a smaller grant amount, we encourage the funds use for smaller purchases, such as equipment for healthcare, vaccine storage, police and fire vehicles and equipment, scuba equipment, fire department, turnout gear, public building equipment, transportation and infrastructure equipment. Here are some examples of projects that have recently been completed in the state. Kings County purchased a Jaws of Life for their fire department. Distance learning was completed for Golden Plains Unified School District. City of Mendota purchased 2 police patrol vehicles. Heber Elementary purchased a school cafeteria freezer. Coahuila Indian Reservation purchased some equipment for their fire department. Butte County purchased a bookmobile and funded a literacy coach. New school was constructed for Long Valley Charter School. City of Clear Lake constructed an animal control facility. Down here in the corner, you see the picture of Auburn Interfaith Food Closet. That's a new food bank that was constructed in Auburn. And then City of Huron constructed a domestic violence and homeless housing center. New for this fiscal year is our disaster repair grant program. And this is available to repair essential community facilities that were damaged during the federal presidentially declared disasters in calendar year 2022. And these include the winter storms and flooding of calendar year 2022, the various wildfires that occurred during that time, and the earthquake that occurred during that time. There is no minimum or maximum grant for this particular program, and then the funds can also be used to replace damaged equipment or to purchase equipment necessary to make repairs to damaged facilities. For instance, if you have a community or an area that had damaged roads, you can purchase a road grader to make the repairs to those roads. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got offices as far north as Wairika, as far south as Imperial. All of those dots are offices where our field staff is located. Here is a link to our website, public-facing website, and then my contact information is here, my phone number, my email address, and I will also be available in the breakout room later this morning. And then here's some additional contact information. Again, our website link and our link to sign up for emails through GovDelivery. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our next presentation also is from that same agency, USDA, and they're going to be giving their information.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Alvarado. I'm a loan and grant specialist with USDA Rural Development. It's the same agency as my colleague Sarah, and today I'll be talking about a sister program to the CF program, which we know as WEP for short, the Water and Environmental Programs. In this presentation, I'll go over some of the main programs under WEP, as well as the application process, and I'll show you a few of our successful examples. So the flagship program under WEP is our traditional loan and grant. Below that, there are a few other more specific grants that we've listed here. And if you visit our website, you actually will get a full list of other programs that we have a little bit as a smaller scale. So before I jump in there, just a few notes that our grant and the loan as well, they are competitive actually across the state and the nation. And we rarely fund 100% grant, but we do try to combine either funding from other sources or even a loan if necessary through our in-house financing. So the flagship program under WEP that we have is the loan and grant program I mentioned. Eligibility for this program is based on population of 10,000 or less, as well as being an eligible entity, a public body. Under this program, we do finance comprehensively everything from construction to legal fees, and we tend to combine these loans with grants as well, grant dollars if they're available. We do underwrite with an eye for full repayment of the loan, and we utilize audited financial statements. So we recommend that all entities have their financials audited when possible. And we look at the project itself as well as the applicant in terms of success of the project, feasibility and viability. The rates and the terms of our loans are between 2.375% and almost 4%. The terms of the loan are between 35 and 40 years, never longer than 40 years. And we do base we base the eligibility as well as the rates and terms on median household income, which has been mentioned before, for non-metropolitan areas, which at this point is set until the next census, decennial census, at $80,546. And that is actually also based on the 5-year American Community Survey, ACS. For grants, we do fund up to 45% grants or up to 75%. And those are based on that median household income I mentioned. We have a special program called the Emergency Community Water Assistance Grant. This may cover up to 100% of project costs, and this is not tied to federally declared disasters, but it is tied to an emergency incident that has affected the quality or quantity of drinking water. Now I'll briefly touch on two congressionally mandated programs that are focused on colonias, which are communities, especially designated communities across the US-Mexico border on the US side within 150 miles. For California, it's only, it would be Imperial, San Diego, and parts of Riverside County. There's also a similarly titled Native American grant under the 306C program. This is also focused on drinking water as well as wastewater, sewer, and this is tied to per capita income of less than $18,000.5 thousand dollars or less, and this also has an unemployment rate component. If you are part of either of those two communities, please visit our website and learn more about those programs. The last two program grants I'll touch on here are the pre-development grants, and these cover the cost of preliminary engineering, mostly the engineering reports that are necessary for your project. And this is sort of with an eye towards launching that project and finding out what your community might need in terms of that water, wastewater improvement project. And SWRCB, which stands for, I have it over here, the Special Evaluation Assistance for Rural Communities and Households. And that is capped at a population of 2,500 for your community, and the MHI as well that I mentioned. And then a slight variation of that is this PPG, Pre-Development Planning Grant, which has a higher population threshold at 10,000. And this, however, has a match component of 25%, which can come from the applicant's funds or any other source. And lastly, I'd like to touch on the calendar year 2022 Disaster Relief Grant Program, which my colleague Sarah also touched on. And this is based on FEMA declared disasters for the state of California. It's actually national, but for us in California, it touches winter storms, as well as earthquakes and some fires that occurred in CY 2022. Most counties in California are eligible, except for approximately 14 of them. And the damage is eligible if it occurred into parts of January 2023 even. So, and these are 100% grant dollars. There are no MHI limitations on these, and no maximum or minimum awards, and no matching requirement component. And actually, we do have a webinar tomorrow if you'd like to learn more about the calendar year 2022 disaster relief funding. I'll put that in the chat. It's tomorrow in the afternoon, virtual, and you can register for that with the link I'll share with you. The application process itself for the web programs is through, well, I'll touch a little more on the web portal where one applies for these funding opportunities, but the deadlines are on a rolling basis, except when they're not, which, for example, with the calendar year 2022 disaster relief, that deadline is for June of next year, of 2024. Otherwise, they're on a rolling basis. Where we are somewhat limited is in our funding allotments, which are congressionally tied to the congressionally approved budget. And the application process itself involves different levels of environmental review under NEPA, or and even with some county and state variations based on the project. There are preliminary engineering reports and architectural where appropriate. I mentioned the web portal for applying. We know it as RD Apply. You can access the link there. It's very straightforward. It requires what we call level 2 e-authentication, and that's also very easy. You can contact any of our offices to attain that. Just briefly, I'll go over 3 of our successful projects where we've combined, where it's either been 100% USDA capital infusion or a combination with our state partners at the California Water State Revolving Fund, or even through the entity itself. And we actually are not limited as strictly as other of our federal funding partners with the source of the matching funds. So we could even combine funding through our own programs as a matching requirement, or even the loan itself. As Sarah mentioned, we're across the state. We have regional coverage over 17 of our local offices, the RD offices, and through USDA service centers as well. And with that, I will leave you here with our website, and I look forward to chatting with folks in the breakout room. And as I mentioned, I'll share that webinar registration information in the chat here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that information. I encourage all to attend the webinar if you want more information about what opportunities there are available at the USDA. Our next and last presenter is from the Environmental Protection Agency. It's Brooklyn James. And there they are. We see your screen.
Awesome. Hope everybody can hear me. I just want to apologize in advance if I drop off randomly. I've been having some weird problems with Zoom, but I will try to hop back on as soon as possible if that does happen. But hi, I'm Brooklyn James. I'm from US EPA Region 9 Brownfields program. And I'm here to talk to you all about our Brownfields grant opportunities. So I want to start off, there we go, by mentioning that all of our grants are open right now and due in a couple of days. So it might feel a little bit of a last minute notice to apply for this year, but they are open annually. And so our next funding cycle will be in the fall of 2024. So just to start off, I want to talk about what exactly is brownfield. So a brownfield is a property that is affected by the presence or the potential presence of hazardous contamination. So this could be examples of places where illegal dumping has taken place, old gas stations, automotive repairs, dry cleaners, railroads, old mines. There's honestly a lot of places that can be examples of brownfields, and there's countless reuse options that communities can do to turn those brownfields into community assets. So here are a list of eligible entities that can apply for our grants. So generally that is states, tribes, nonprofits, general purpose units of local government, county, school districts, and qualified community development entities. So starting off with our assessment grants, we have 3 different assessment grants that we're offering this year, including the community-wide assessment grant, coalition grant, and the states and tribes assessment grant. So under these grants, you can perform an inventory to take a look at where are those brownfields within your community and rank them as far as priority based on what your community's needs and issues are. You can also do phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments, community outreach and involvement, and then you can also fund cleanup and redevelopment planning. So the colors here coordinate with which funding amounts for each of the different types, but we have 500,000, 1.5 million for the coalition grant, and 2 million for the states and tribes. Like I mentioned, applications are open now, but they'll be open again next year. And we have more information on our website, and the current guidelines and the request for application has lots of information that's helpful. So we also have our cleanup grants. Under these grants, you can do the actual remediation of whatever contamination is found from your assessments. We can also fund community involvement and engagement. You can cover regulatory oversight fees and do some more reuse and revisioning planning. There are a couple more requirements for this grant. You have to be the sole owner of the site to apply, and the site must be sufficiently characterized by the time you apply, which typically means you have a phase 2 environmental site assessment complete or an equivalent report. And we're offering up to 3 different funding amounts, 500,000, 2 million, and 5 million. And we're able to offer this much. It's been a little lower in the past because of bill funding, which also means there's no cost share, no match requirement for the cleanup grant. So it makes it a really good time to apply. That's going to be the case for a couple more years while we have our bill funding available. Next, we have our multi-purpose grant. This is essentially a combination of the assessment and the cleanup grant activities that you can perform under this grant. A couple of the requirements for this one is that if you are awarded the grant, you must complete at least one phase 2 environmental site assessment on a site, one brownfield site cleanup. So you have to do the remediation on at least one site, and you have to create an overall revitalization plan that has a specific reuse strategy for at least one of the sites as well. And we're offering up to $1 million for these projects. We also have our revolving loan fund grant, which is a little bit different because this gives money to allow a community to give out loans and subgrants to other entities. And under the RLF grants, you can fund projects for privately held sites as well. We're not offering this during this funding cycle, which is the FY24, but next year for the FY25 grant cycle, it should be available. And again, there's no cost share for these grants at this time. Also, a little bit of a different grant we have here is a job training grant. So this is a workforce development grant that's aimed to train up environmental technicians from within your community. And you can actually train these community members for multiple different certifications, and you can tailor that training to whatever the demand is in your community, whether it be HAZWOPER, general environmental technicians. It's up to you. We're offering about up to 500,000 for this grant. Governments, nonprofits, and tribes are eligible. And the funding cycle for this one closed this August, but we'll be opening it up again next summer. Again, here's some links to get more information. The slides, I believe, are on the CFCC website if you want to access those. And the last one I wanted to talk about isn't necessarily a grant, but more of a program. Our targeted brownfields assessment program is free contractor assistance to perform phase 1 or phase 2 environmental site assessments and data evaluation. That actually just got updated, and now we can offer an analysis of brownfields cleanup alternative, basically a formal cleanup plan as part of this program as well. So this is completely free. It's a non-competitive program and it's open year round. There's an online application for it. It's a pretty simple compared to our other grants, which narratives have to be written for. But this essentially allows the EPA's contractors to come out and do some soil samples on a property that you're interested in seeing what sort of contamination is there, and getting a report written up for that. So some of the requirements for this program are that you have to have some sort of redevelopment in mind for the property. It doesn't need to be a specific or robust plan, but just kind of know, okay, we want some commercial to go here. We want an open space in the future. We have to have something in mind, and that reuse needs to serve the public good. And of course, we have been focusing our work in disproportionately affected communities and underserved in communities with environmental justice concerns. So I linked the application to this slide if you want more information. Next, I just want to shout out the Center for Creative Land Recycling. They are Region 9 and Region 10's technical assistance to brownfield providers. So they give free assistance to any brownfields related inquiries. So if you have specific questions, if you have wondering about eligibility questions, if you are eligible for a grant, they can give resources, expertise, and they can review your applications and give you really strong feedback on how to improve it. Okay, that wraps up my presentation. Here's my email. If you want to reach out, and I'll also be available in the breakout rooms to answer any specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. I want to thank all the presenters today for their information. It is really nice to see that all these agencies have funding assistance to help out the community. But before I begin before I open up the breakout rooms, I have one more thing I would like. I said there's evaluations. We had 2. We already took 1 poll, and now we want to, in the link, they're going to put the CFCC funding fair evaluation to see how your experience was today. And so that link should be in there. And if you can, just for a quick 5 minutes, take that survey for us, and then we can allow the agencies to go into their breakout rooms and set themselves up. So please, I encourage you to go to the breakout rooms, and also encourage you to take the survey because it always helps us. Agencies, the breakout rooms are open for you to join, so that you'll be there and prepared for all those who are going to visit you, because there is so much information given today about how you can rebuild your community, how you can help your community build roads, fire trucks, community centers, daycare, help the school system out. So please. As always, we appreciate you attending our funding fair. I noticed that there was a lot of people in the poll that said this was their first, and a lot of them said this is a repeat. We are happy to have both repeaters and those with the first time who attend. Again, we're having an in-person one on the 14th in Tulare. That information can be found at the CFCC website. We like to know who's going to be there, so if you can register beforehand, but not all walk-ins are welcome, and just bring your business card with you.